Welcome to your fostering pre-approval training for mainstream carers. This is session 1, the role of the local authority and the role of the foster carer. My name is Jo Crossgray. I work at our training centre at Endeavour. My role is a trainer. I'm also a qualified social worker, and prior to working here I worked in the fostering team for about 8 years. I've worked in children's homes, mainstream and disabilities. I've worked in child protection, I've worked in family support, I've worked for Show Start doing play development work and community development. I've also worked in nurseries and schools. So the reason as trainers we tell you a little bit about our background is so that you know where our examples and our stories are coming from. They're not just something I've read in a book, it's I can speak to you from real life experience. Okay, so bear with me, it's very new to me to be filming training, as usually we would have you here in the training room, but obviously current circumstances mean that we're not able to do that. So we're filming the training for you to be able to watch at home. Now within your pack that you've been given, you should have various worksheets and handouts, so as we come to those I will tell you which ones we're doing. There will also be points along the way of the training where I will ask you to pause me, and I will ask you, if there's two of you, to have a little discussion, maybe make some notes, or if you're on your own, just have a think and make some notes again. So when I ask you to pause me, I'll put my hand up, you can pause me, I'll pause here, and then hopefully when you come back we can start up again. So like I say, bear with me. If there's the issue with you watching me on videos that you can't stop me and ask me questions, but if you have any questions, please discuss them when you've watched this. Make notes if you've got questions so you don't forget them. The beauty for you though is that you can pause me and have a break from me. I don't often have a pause button, but for you guys I have, so I'm sure that'll be a good thing for you, and take regular breaks. Okay, so like I said, this is session 1. What I always cover at the beginning of the course is what your pre-approval training consists of, and it's the following. So you should have these slides in front of you. Follow the slides as well in case things aren't clear on the screen. So session 1 is what you're doing with me now, is the role of the local authority and the role of the foster carer. Session 2, which has got a really long title: Health, Safety and Welfare of the Child, Safer Caring, Protecting Children, Supporting Foster Carers. That's session 2, that's usually done on an evening. Session 3, Promoting Positive Contact, is also done on an evening usually. And session 4, Approaches to Difficult Behaviour and Introduction to Attachment, we cover in the 4th session. So those are the 4 sessions that you do with me, but pre-approval training also consists of safeguarding training and medication training. So you will have been given instructions on how to access those. I don't need to go through housekeeping because you're not here. I don't need to go through ground rules because you're not here. But I will talk about this. So I always start a course by just addressing the issue of the training room. And that's because people come on training, and especially pre-approval training, they can be carrying a lot of nerves. For some people, being in the training room, it's the first time they've been in a learning environment like that since they were at school, and there can be a lot of mixed feelings. Now, although you're watching me at home and you're not in the training room, the hope is that if you become a foster carer, then there will be training expectations, and I will see you in the future when we are allowed to be together again. So I thought I will just talk about this, and I just want to say that the training room is not something to fear. I try and make it as relaxed as possible. We're allowed to smile, we're allowed to laugh, we're allowed to have fun. It's not school. You don't have to put your hand up to ask a question, you don't have to call me miss, you don't have to ask to go to the toilet. You're allowed to eat. In fact, I actively encourage it. It keeps people awake, and like I say, we're there to learn together. I don't believe anyone's going to learn if they're terrified, so I do like to put people's nerves at risk. So if you're watching this at home and you're thinking, oh my goodness, when I first come to training, what's it going to be like? Please try not to worry too much. I'm sure you'll be fine. Okay, So the aims of this session then are, we are going to be looking at what being a foster carer actually involves. We're going to be helping you to look at how it's going to affect your way of life, because life will change when you are a foster carer. We're going to be helping you to decide whether fostering is right for you and your family. At this stage, at the pre-approval stage, you haven't been to panel yet, you haven't completed an assessment, you'll all be at different stages. Some of you will have started an assessment, some of you will have finished, some of you will be getting ready to go to the fostering panel. But at this stage, you can still say if it's not right for you, and we really can't stress enough the importance of being honest. So if you are having doubts, if there is anything that worries you, it is so much better to speak to us about it. It might be something that we can alleviate, or for some people in very rare circumstances, through the whole process they decide that actually this isn't right for me and my family at this time. If that's the situation, we would much rather that you were upfront and honest with us, because for somebody to go into fostering when they're not really sure could have an impact on the children that we place, and ultimately we need to protect those children. We will also be introducing you to the skills and knowledge that you need to be a foster carer, and we'll be helping you to appreciate the difference that good foster care can make to a child's life, because you can have such an impact on these children's lives. In session 4, we're going to be looking at the impact of the trauma that these children have experienced on their developing brains, and the difference that you can make to that and the healing that you can create is just immense. So hopefully you'll go away with a sense of that. Okay, I'm just going to show you this. So you should have a copy of this book. It's called Applying to Foster, an Applicant's Guide to the Assessment Process. So what you'll get in this book, particularly at the back, is just additional information, things to kind of go alongside what we cover in the training. So that's yours to refer to. Now at the front is something that might scare you slightly. It is the homework section. All the bits in red, so from I think page 9 onwards, is homework, and each section refers to a different part of the pre-approval training, and you're expected to complete this homework within 2 weeks of completing the full training. So when you've done your safeguarding and your 4 sessions with me, we ask that you complete the homework and hand it in. Now on page 6, that you've got my email address and my colleague's email address who marks the homework. At the moment, people are working in different places, so the best thing for you to do watching this at home is give the homework to your assessing social worker, and they can forward it to somebody in training for marking. If you've got any issues or are struggling to complete the homework, just ask for help. It's believe me, you won't be the first person to say I don't understand this or I don't know what I'm doing. It's absolutely fine to say I don't get it, can I have some help please? Okay, so that's your training book. Okay, so what we're going to be doing particularly in this session is we're going to be looking at the roles and responsibilities of a foster carer within the children's service. We're going to be exploring why children actually come into foster care, so why are they here in the first place, why do we need you? We're going to be exploring how we can support the development of positive identity. A lot of our children do not have a sense of identity, do not have a real idea of who they are and where they fit in the world. And we're going to be looking at the financial packages and talking about tax. Don't panic too much at the moment, I will come on to that. Okay, so the first thing we always talk about is, as fostering applicants, as you guys are at the moment, you will all at least at this stage have had a visit from Donna, Denise or Sammy. What we try and get you to think about is what kind of fostering you want to do. And at this stage, in my pre-approval training, quite often a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know, I just want to foster. But nobody, well, very few people will have the skills, experience and knowledge to cover all areas of fostering. So what you need to think about is what suits you best, what you're best suited to, but also what fits with your family and your lifestyle best. because fostering comes under many different guises, and just to say I want to foster is quite broad. So what we have is we have mainstream fostering. So mainstream fostering is children who are in the care system who need a foster placement, and that may be long or short term. Okay? So if you're thinking of mainstream fostering, you need to think, do I want short-term placements where I'm supporting a child, moving them on for whatever reason? You could be moving them on to adoption, you could be moving them on to another foster carer because they just need somewhere temporary while they find a long-term placement. You could want children on a longer-term basis, bearing in mind that by long-term we mean a real commitment to these children. You also need to think about age groups, numbers of children. So if you are wanting to care for children who are very little or very big, or you might think you're suited to sibling groups, that's something you need to consider as well. So that's mainstream fostering, but we also have mainstream respite. Now, as a foster carer, for mainstream, we do not expect that you have respite. It's not kind of a built into it, you will get this much respite provided. We would hope that children are with you all the time as members of your family. But for many different reasons, in all sorts of different situations, some of our foster carers do have respite and children do go to respite. Now, the hope is that children who have respite, they're going to the same person, they're going to somebody they know, they have the chance to have introductions and get to know these people. In very rare occasions it happens in an emergency, but we do have some foster carers that just provide respite for children who live with other foster carers. So that might be something that interests you. Equally, we also have carers who have children on a long or short-term basis who also provide a respite placement as well. We have our support care. So our support care carers care for children who are still living at home. And the family social worker might decide as a way of supporting that family and keeping the placement going is that we put in some support care. And our support care carers are really crucial to the service, and they might have, so you might have a carer who provides one weekend a month, another carer might do every Tuesday night, another carer might have children in nearly every day, but lots of different children on regular arrangements. As all our foster carers are expected to work with parents and with families, but for our support care carers it's really crucial to have that working relationship going with the child's family and to be part of that network. So that's support care. We also have supported lodgings, so some of you might be watching this training after applying to be supported lodgings providers, but supported lodgings is a scheme where our providers provide placements for children who are 16 plus. And it comes under a different umbrella, under a different term, but it's still part of fostering, and a lot of the same principles still apply. And the idea is you're preparing these children for independence, but these children and young people who are in supported lodgings still require a lot of nurture and a lot of understanding and a lot of healing, which we're going to talk about in session 4. It says on here family and friends, which are more commonly known as connected persons. I'll just mention those because you may come across them throughout fostering. Our connected persons carers care for somebody that they know. So they might foster their grandchildren, they might foster a niece, a nephew, a sibling, an old neighbour, something like that. But connected persons carers knew the child before they became a foster carer, whereas you guys in mainstream have no idea which child or children you will be fostering. And then we have our PAST team, which is the Parenting Assessment and Support team. This is a team of carers who provide placements for parents and children together. So where we have parents and children who require some assessment work of them living together, we provide fostering households for them to live in. They're time-limited placements, so the placements only last a number of weeks, and foster carers contribute to observations and to the assessment process until a conclusion can be made around recommendations for further planning. It's a really, really amazing provision that we have in Hull, and has done some really good work. If you're interested in being a past carer, the past team don't take brand new approved carers. You need to have been caring for a year or so and have some experience under your belt. But if it's something that interests you for the future, then speak to your assessing social worker about it and say, you know, I really like the look of this past caring and I'd like to be considered in the future. They can then speak to the past team, and someone from the past team can come out and have a chat with you about it in more detail. Okay, so important to think about what kind of fostering you want to do. So, that makes it easier to match children with you when you have been to panel and you are approved. So the possible plans that you could end up working with as a foster carer. You could end up working with a rehabilitation plan. For most of our children who come into the looked after system, our primary goal is to get them home again, to get them back with their families, to get the families to do the work that they need to do, for us to do our assessments, whatever it is we need to do, and to rehabilitate that child back home. As a foster carer, that involves all sorts of things for you: working with the family, preparing the child, supporting the child, working with the team around the child. You might work with adoption plans, and I am going to talk about adoption later on, so I'll come to that later on. Children who are moving to another carer. You might be taking short-term placements, and for some of our children who need a long-term placement, we don't want to just quickly find someone. We want to make sure it's the right match. So you might have a child who comes to stay with you while their long-term carer is found, and for you, again, you're going to have a relationship with that new carer, to have communication with them, to prepare the child, to support the child through their move. You might be working with sudden endings, so we really hope that a child placed with you does not have a sudden end to their placement, but you might have a child who's had a sudden ending somewhere else, and there's lots of feelings that will evoke in the child. You will need a lot of support to support the child with that. Like I said, long-term placements. For children in long-term foster placements, we're not just talking till the child's 18 and then they're out the door, see ya. What we're saying is a commitment for life. So it's very rare that children leave home at 18 and never see their parents again, so we certainly don't want that for our children with their foster carers. You will be supported to keep children at home way past their 18. Under our stay and put regulations, but you know, at the risk of worrying anyone out there, I left home when I was 30, so the age for leaving home is getting later and later and later. So for some of our children, they may be there for a very long time. We have lots of foster carers with adults at home who were looked after and are still there. Equally, you know, you get boomerang children, so you might get, we want children to know that there's always somewhere there. As an adult, at my age, I know that if anything went wrong, if I ever needed somewhere to stay, I could go straight back to my mum and dad, and we want that for our children. We want them to have somewhere that they know they can always go back to. Permanence, I'm going to come on to talk about permanence shortly. We have the past team, so I've already talked about the past team and the work that they do. Shared lives, you might work with a plan to transfer a child to a shared lives placement. Shared lives is kind of like fostering for adults with disabilities. It's an amazing scheme, and it just means that adults who are not able to live independently are not necessarily having to go and live in a unit. They can live in a family home. And independence, you might be supporting a child to move on, to move out and live independently, which will require a lot of work, and we do have a training course specifically around that.